Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you've been following along with my recent updates and uploads, then you'll realize that I just uploaded for the first time in over a month. And that is primarily because I fell into a very unhealthy way of living, and I ended up once again in the hospital. I have been back home now for about a week, and I thought I would upload a video sort of explaining what went on. But doing that takes a lot of effort, and it would be discussing a lot of things that I don't know that I'm ready to fully discuss again. So I thought about just sharing the art that I created while I was staying in the psychiatric ward, just so you guys could kind of see some of the stuff that I put together while I was spending time there. You'll have to excuse my voice, I am currently sick, so if I sound a little off, that's most likely why. So anyone who has stayed in a psychiatric ward will know that they do not allow you to have, or at least most do not allow you to have, pencils that are full-sized. So you get these small, half-sized golf pencils if you're in a really nice place, or if you're in a place like the one that I stayed at, you get these bendy pencils, which collapse under any sort of pressure. So I had to make my peace with that when it came to creating art. The first few pieces you'll see are really shaky, and then they sort of start to stabilize a little bit towards the middle and end of my stay. Now, I don't personally have any memory of my first 4 days at this facility, and that is mainly because I was very upset upon arriving there and previously, and so I was on a lot of very heavy medication that pretty much just pushed my brain over the edge. It's a combination of that, stress, reoccurring trauma. So these first 2 or 3 drawings I don't actually remember creating. But that aside, this first one that I want to share with you is one that I have absolutely no memory of creating. It more or less is kind of like what would be a normal doodle page for me, but you can see it's kind of very scattered. You can't really tell if there's a overall theme. In the upper right corner, I have this skull with what looks like a snake going through it, and the snake is spitting out pills. Again, I don't directly remember what I was thinking when I was creating this, but that was something that I had chosen to kind of sketch out there in the top right corner. The text above it is very, if you translate it very roughly, it looks like I was trying to write, "We're all smart," but I'm actually missing the character in there that would have made it closer to that translation. So you can see I'm not really thinking with all of my brain. I'm kind of just putting stuff down. That same goes for the second line. I can't really tell what I was trying to write, but for whatever reason I felt like that was best expressed this way, and so that's kind of what's here. You could see a message on the left hand side that says care, listen, and I have what looks like an arrow going through a heart, so there were obviously some feelings of not being heard and not being able to express myself or my wants or needs. The rest of the sketches below that are relatively random. One is of a roach, which people who watch my channel will know that I am slightly obsessed with roaches, so it doesn't surprise me that that ended up here. There is a sketch of one of my lizards, my very favorite crab spider, and a horse in the corner, kind of just stuck in there, badly drawn horse, if you will. Then in the bottom left corner, it looks like I attempted to write, "Are you happy?" and then "That's your duty," which is actually from one of my favorite Vocaloid songs. But again, it's kind of random that I wrote that down there, but I'm sure it had something to do with the situation and sort of what was going on, so there's that. This second piece I don't, again, have recollection of creating, and it's blurred out a little bit because I actually wrote down some information about another patient who I guess I was trying to connect with in the upper left-hand corner, but you can see a lot of random, very random video game characters, which again, I don't normally draw, so it's interesting to see that I've sketched that here. And then once again, we have a horse in the corner, which is the same corner, and a very similar horse, so I don't know what was going on there, but there's that. And then a girl with some very flowing hair, which I really can't identify. It was probably just something random I sketched. And that was the second piece, which again, I don't remember making. That brings me to the third piece that I made, which I have very fuzzy memories of. I think this was meant to be possibly an angel. Again, I don't really remember very much about this, but you can clearly see he's wearing a cross and he has what looks like a halo. Again, I wish I could tell you more, but I really don't remember very much about this. I do know, though, that I was just learning to sort of start working with these bendy pencils, which are just so difficult to draw with. But you know, where there is a will, there is a way. For those of you who know, I do most of my drawing, my digital drawing, with my mouse. I do not have an iPad, I do not have a stylus or anything like that. So as an artist, you will have challenges, and with the right will and determination, you can definitely overcome them. This page is actually one that I sort of remember, but still, it's a very, very fuzzy memory. I don't recall sitting down to make this. I don't recall trying out crayons. None of this stakes a very big place in my memory, but once again, you can sort of see almost like a ghost of my art style now. This is very, very similar to some of the art I created in middle school, which is why it's so interesting, because up at the top you can see a Cho from Sonic. I think that's how you pronounce it, Cho. But I used to draw them a lot when I was in middle school, as well as practicing eyes, expressive eyes, and whatnot. And I've written down at the bottom, isn't it fun, over and over again, which is, again, it's very strange. It's not something I would have sat down to draw, given the circumstances. And again, I really don't recall this page very much at all. I know it was there, and I had it, and some of it is similar to some of the things that I would draw, but I feel detached from it. It doesn't feel like my art, but it was there anyway. So after 4 days of being more or less down and out, my memory does pick up as the heavily sedating drugs that I had been on started to sort of wear off. And when that happened, I went back and I started creating other pieces that were sort of reminiscent of some of the things that I'd created before. If you watched my last art video, you will recognize that I have a character in there that looks very similar to this. I can't really remember if I sat down with an idea of that was what I was going to create, but I do remember adding elements to this one that weren't currently seen in the version I created before. And you can see that this is a little bit more refined. It's a little bit more similar to what I've drawn before. I have my watermark in there at the bottom, which wasn't there previously. And then even though there's still a character up front that is written incorrectly, the message is more clear here, which is please look at me. And it's more or less correct, I would say, very loosely. My understanding is still small, but that's sort of the message on this one. During my time in the psych ward, I had a lot of opportunities to watch TV in the day room, and given that it is very close to Halloween right now, we would watch different horror movies. And even if I didn't speak to the other patients, I am a huge horror fan, so I started to kind of gravitate towards the TV room because I knew I could go in there and I could draw. They had tables, and and paper and crayons and pencils, and I could watch TV. And it was around that time that I became rather obsessed with mouths and teeth, which I don't draw a lot of, as well as eyes. And so in this one you can see I have multiple mouths and eyes, and even eyeballs in the background. There are a lot of like artistic idiosyncrasies in this picture that I see that I want to change, little small things that, would bother me. But at the time, I recall making this, I was very pleased with it, especially given the pencil that I was using. And once again, you can kind of see me sort of recovering from my memory lapse. Once again, I've added a watermark, I've started to flesh out, the corners of the paper and whatnot. And I think it's starting to look slightly more me, art style wise. Very loosely I say that, but still, I feel like this becomes a little bit more recognizable as my work, maybe. This was the next piece that I had made sort of as I was coming out of things, and I was really starting to realize what was going on around me and how long I had actually been there, even given the fact that I don't remember any of it. So with this piece, you kind of see this girl, strung up, and it looks like she's kind of like a marionette, and she's got these chains that are leading up to these, I don't even know what you call those, but they're what the strings connect to on a marionette. And I have the words medication, progress, fixed, and normal. And I think I was trying to balance things at the time, what other people wanted from me or what they felt was best for me, and the way I felt about things, given that I had already been there for almost a week. It was very frustrating for me to sort of come to and realize that this time had been not wasted, but more or less, it had gone on without me knowing. And then I was there trying to pick up the pieces and, discover where I was when I could go home. And all of that just happened very slowly, and it was a very gradual process. I didn't trust anybody. I didn't trust the place where I was. So this picture kind of, I think it displays that sort of feeling strung up, held in position, levitating, you can't put your feet on the ground. And while it's definitely more me, and it actually mimics a picture I'd drawn about a year ago, you can definitely see small inconsistencies again that, as an artist normally wouldn't have escaped my knowledge. Once again, my watermark's here. I remember actually showing this piece to my parents and, being like, I'm awake. Like, I'm finally, coming back, and this is how I feel. So that's what this piece was about. And then this was the very last piece that I did right before release. I had been doing a lot of faces, but I hadn't been doing a lot of like direct facial features. So I actually drew most of this on the bathroom floor of my ward room, where I was hiding because one of the other patients was screaming and she would not be quieted. So I don't tolerate that well without music to kind of smooth over things. So after, I believe I slept in the bookcase. We had a bookcase and I was sleeping in the bookcase. And when I got up, I said, no more. I am going to be creative. I'm going to go to draw something. And so I not locked myself. Obviously you can't do that. But I got into the bathroom and I closed the door and I sat down on the floor and I started this piece. I don't really know what I was meaning to express by this. It was sort of just something that came out of my brain, and again, like I said, I'd more or less been obsessed with mouths and teeth, so you could see, the kind of the jawbone on this character and the teeth that I had drawn. And this was, I believe, drawn 2 days before I was officially released. It might have been about maybe 24 hours, honestly. Again, my memory is very foggy. But this one was so popular among the other patients in the ward, and one of the other nurses that I actually had a nurse ask me if I did commissions, which I thought was funny. And I said, yes, I used to. I don't anymore. but he had mentioned that this is the kind of work he would get tattooed on his body. And I think I kind of laughed myself out of that one because, I'm very careful about where I put my art and, who I give my art to, because it can get sticky. But either way, I thought that was cool that so many people liked this piece, and I was able to do something creative during a time when I was not feeling well. So I think the main message of this video is just never give up the things you love. There will always be circumstances trying to keep you from doing what you enjoy as far as art. And art can come from anywhere, and it can come from anything. The most horrible of situations can create the most beautiful of pieces. So I thought I'd share that with you today and kind of give you a little tour of my latest artistic journeys. I am looking forward to getting back on a regular upload schedule and putting things together now that I'm back home. It's just I'm taking time to slowly get back into things, and there's still a part of me that sort of feels like things are off, a lot happened, and I am in recovery. I'm in recovery right now, and it's a long journey. For those of you who know me well, you will know that I am absolutely terrified of ambulances and doctors, and now I have a growing fear of police who are involved. And so getting back to real life, getting back to being back in my house and whatnot, it's a lot, but I love you guys. Thank you for still being here even though I've been gone for so long, and for supporting my work. I really appreciate it, and I love you guys, and I hope you're all doing well. I guess I will see you in the next video. Stay awesome, guys. Bye.